My name is Kelly, and at 31 years old, my family ignored my promotion celebration. A week later, I received a $3,000 request for Dad's party. I sent one penny and blocked them all. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. I finally received the promotion I had been working so hard for. Senior Director of Operations, massive income increase, true decision-making power, corner office with windows that do not face another building, the complete package. I felt like I had finally made it. The promotion announcement took place during an all-hands meeting with the CEO, who shook my hand in front of 200 employees. People I barely knew congratulated me afterward. I got free lunch, my picture in the business newsletter, and everything. I quickly texted my folks with a generic big news message. David, my boyfriend, called me beaming and promised we would celebrate properly. Nobody called back. Whatever. They're definitely busy, right? They weren't busy. Following the announcement, my supervisor, Jan, drew me aside. Kelly, you earned it. Never let someone make you feel guilty about your accomplishment. So I wanted to celebrate properly, not at a corporate happy hour where everyone pretends to be joyful while perusing Instagram. Something genuine with the individuals who purportedly cared. I made a reservation at Vincenzo's, a great Italian restaurant downtown. They had a private dining area in the back that was ideal for about 15 people. Put down a $350 deposit. We ordered appetizers and decent non-alcoholic beverages. I sent out invites 2 weeks in advance to Anna, Giovanni, my older sister Elena, and my younger brother Nico, as well as my mentor Sebastian, some coworkers, and 3 college pals with whom I remained in touch. The invitation was quite explicit about what this was and when it was happening. Everyone read the messages. I spotted the read receipts. Anna even responded with celebratory emojis. Elena sent a strangely serious message about being proud. Nico gave the thumbs up. Giovanni never reacted, which was customary for him. The man handled text messages as if they were written in ancient hieroglyphics. I was truly excited in the lead-up week. Even practiced a toast in my car like a total fool. That's how good I felt about life. On the day of the celebration, I arrived at 7 to ensure that everything was in order. The private room looked fantastic. The table was decorated. Sparkling cider was refreshing. The manager, Marco, kept congratulating me. A very decent guy who had no idea he was going to witness something pathetic. 8:00 p.m. Nobody. I texted the group chat an optimistic message about being there when they arrived. Read receipts everywhere. There were no answers. By 9:00 p.m., I'm sipping sparkling water and Marco brings breadsticks. At 9:30, my coworkers text me to say they're leaving. College pals just vanished totally. Sebastian calls, and his wife is truly in the hospital, which is the only valid explanation I had all night. 10:00 p.m. When the time comes, I'm eating calamari alone, while Marco speculates that the date may have been incorrectly recorded. We're both aware This young waitress looked at me with genuine empathy, and I nearly burst into tears right there, like I were a stray dog in the storm. 10:30. I tell him to cancel the main meals and pay for the items I ordered. I left him an $85 gratuity, since his second-hand embarrassment for me was real. He tried to resist it. No, señorita, I can't take this. You sat with me for 20 minutes while you should have been operating your restaurant. That's worth $100. I drove home in utter stillness, with my phone merely laying on the passenger seat. There were no calls, texts, or apologies for being unable to attend. It's just me and my thoughts, which is a deadly mix even at the best of circumstances. That night, I lay in bed considering every potential answer. Emergency, miscommunication, or perhaps I wasn't worth showing up for. That last notion clung like gum to a shoe. The next few days were radio quiet. Nothing. On Thursday, I received an SMS from Nico. Hello, sis. I apologize for Saturday. Something came up. Congratulations on your promotion, though. Something came up. This was the complete explanation, as if I'd invited him to watch paint dry rather than enjoy the culmination of 6 years of hard work. Nobody else said anything. It was as if the celebration had never occurred. Little did I know, the universe was not finished kicking me while I was down. In fact, it was still warming up. Monday afternoon, 9 days after my non-celebration, I'm at a budget review meeting when my phone vibrates. Family group chat. I almost disregarded it, but curiosity took over. Then Anna's message arrived. She is announcing Giovanni's retirement party next month, and they have reserved the Grand Palm Resort for the entire weekend, Friday through Sunday. Ocean view rooms, private beach access, catered supper, live band, and more, followed by the bomb. The cost per participant is $3,000. Please Venmo by Wednesday. Cannot wait. I honestly thought it was a prank at first. Retirement parties cost $3,000 per person? Less than 2 weeks after each of them, no one showed up to my promotion dinner without even sending a text. The nerve of these folks. Elena reacted instantly, stating she had already sent the money, and Giovanni deserved it. Then she tweeted a selfie from some breakfast spot, boasting about pampering herself before the big celebration, implying that she had money for mimosas and a weekend getaway, but couldn't afford to show up to a free dinner I paid for. Giovanni joined in with the standard faux humility performance. You kids do not have to do this. Then instantly, but it means everything to me. I cannot wait to celebrate with my family, right? The family that evidently no longer included me, but did include my wallet. I had seen that play 1,000 times. The entire performance was so polished that it could have been on Broadway. Giovanni could have won a Tony for his guilt trip. I sat in the meeting room, absolutely absorbed, as my CFO discussed Q3 predictions. The person next to me had to nudge me twice. Kelly, are you okay? I nodded, pretending to take notes. My phone started vibrating as additional family members joined in. An aunt said she had already booked her travel. An uncle inquired about the dress code, and cousins I hadn't heard from in years suddenly flooded the conversation with excitement. Then I spotted something. My brother Nico had not replied. It was just me and him, and there was utter quiet. I excused myself from the meeting, went into my office, closed the door, and sat there staring at the group chat. My assistant knocked and asked if I needed anything. I requested her to hold all of my calls and empty my afternoon calendar. That's when something changed in my mind. The kind of clarity that comes when you realize you've spent your entire life playing a rigged game. I opened Venmo and sent Anna exactly 1 cent. In the remarks section, I wrote, "Here's my contribution. Enjoy the party." If they wanted to play games, I was about to change the rules entirely, and trust me, I was playing for keeps. Then I did something I'd wanted to do for months, but never had the guts to do. I blocked all of my family members' phone numbers. Anna, Giovanni, Elena, and even extended family members had participated in the never-ending guilt trip. The only number I did not block was Nico's. Each block felt like releasing a weight I'd been carrying for years. 20 persons were prevented in 2 minutes. It was therapeutic. I should have charged my insurance for that. But I did not stop there. I spent 3 hours on the phone following that encounter. I called the bank and asked them to remove my parents from the joint account we formed years ago when they needed assistance. I moved all of my money to a different bank totally. Here's the thing with their mortgage. When they purchased the house 8 years ago, their credit was so bad that they couldn't qualify. I was 25 years old with solid credit and a reasonable income. Giovanni persuaded me to join as a co-owner on the title. Said it was only temporary to get them approved. They would refinance me in a year or 2 at most. That was 8 years ago. Guess what never occurred? Congratulations if you correctly predict the refinancing. You are smarter than I was at the age of 25. My name was still on the deed, so I legally owned a third of the house. I called the mortgage company and requested that any changes made without my physical signature be frozen. In addition, I was an authorized user on 3 of their credit cards. I removed myself from all of them. The customer service representative at the bank seemed concerned. "Ma'am, are you sure you want to close this account? It's been open for 8 years. I have never been more certain about anything in my life. I changed my apartment's locks. I updated every password I had, set up 2-factor authentication on everything, and created a wall around my entire financial life. My security questions changed from my mother's maiden name and my first pet to randomly generated answers, saved in a password manager. They could no longer use social engineering to gain access to anything. It felt fantastic. I returned home that night, feeling lighter than I have in ages. I made myself dinner, FaceTimed David for a bit, watched a movie, and slept like a baby. For just one day, life was tranquil. When my family understood what I'd done, all hell broke out. I spent one day in blissful silence. There were no guilt trips, sob stories, or demands. Just me and my new corner office, where I could focus on actual work without worrying about the next financial disaster. Then Tuesday night occurred. I was preparing dinner when someone began knocking on my door. Not knocking, but banging like they were breaking it down, as if the cops were serving a warrant or something. I peeked through the peephole. Elena. Her face was hot and contorted in that way she had just before unleashing her rage on someone. I pondered ignoring her, but the pounding intensified. My neighbor across the hall opened his door, visibly anxious. I waved as if everything was all right, even though it obviously wasn't. I opened the door with the chain lock engaged. What? 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 She appeared to be going to have an aneurysm. Steam was literally pouring out of her ears. You send Anna 1 cent like some kind of jerk joke, then block everyone. What is your problem? I don't have a problem. I just stopped being your problem solver. You're being a child. This is Giovanni's retirement. He's worked his entire life and deserves to celebrate. And you're making it about yourself. That made me giggle. Making it about myself? Like inviting my family to celebrate the biggest achievement of my career and having literally none of you show up. She started to smirk. Oh my God, you're still hung up on that. It was just a dinner, Kelly. Get over it. Just a dinner. Cool. Then Giovanni's retirement is just a party. He can get over not having me there. Oh, that's completely different. How? Because Giovanni actually matters, because he's our father, and he sacrificed everything for us. And the least you could do is show up and help pay for one party. She was shrieking now, very likely waking up my neighbors. Felix next door probably enjoyed this more than his evening television. But no, you have to be selfish and make everything about you and your stupid feelings. I began to close the door. We're done here. She slammed her foot against the threshold. The woman was also wearing heels, which must have been uncomfortable. You think you're so much better than us, don't you, with your fancy promotion and your fancy apartment? You're still the same scrawny kid who needed Giovanni to bail her out. Giovanni hasn't bailed me out of anything since I was 19. I've bailed him out 17 times in the last 5 years. I counted. That's what family does. I'm not your ATM anymore, Elena. Figure it out. I closed the door so forcefully that she had to move her foot or lose toes. She stood outside, yelling for another 2 minutes before leaving. I heard her kick my door on her way out, which was quite mature. I ate my subpar pasta while listening to her automobile pull out of the parking lot as if she were auditioning for Fast and Furious. My neighbor Felix knocked 20 minutes later. Retired cop. Solid dude. Everything okay? Heard shouting. Yeah, family drama. Nothing dangerous. He gave a firm nod. Family's the worst sometimes. They know exactly which buttons to push. You need anything? I'm in 3B. Thanks, Felix, David called right after. Want me to come over? I'm okay, just need quiet. Proud of you, he said. Hold your line. I saw it highlighted in our building's newsletter. Hey, congratulations on your promotion, Felix added the next morning when we passed in the hall. At least one person congratulated me in person. A guy I scarcely knew was more encouraging than my own biological family. Let that sink in. My phone began buzzing with fresh numbers. I knew they were using other people's phones. I let everything go to voicemail. 3 more calls. I ignored 3 more voicemails. Then text messages began arriving from numbers I didn't know. My mother sent messages questioning how I could do this to them, messages claiming that I was pulling the family apart for money. My father was devastated and believes he failed as a dad. I blocked each number that came through. It was like playing whack-a-mole, except the moles were my relatives attempting to guilt-trip me into supporting their lifestyle. A high score, 20 blocked numbers in one evening. Then my phone rang from Nico's number, which I hadn't blocked. I responded. Hey, sis, he murmured quietly. You okay? Yeah, you? They're losing their minds over here. Anna's crying. Giovanni's rage pacing. Elena keeps screaming about what an ungrateful jerk you are, and I told them they brought it on themselves. You've been bankrolling their lives for years, and they couldn't even show up to your dinner. A moment's silence followed. How did that go over? Giovanni instructed me to leave if I was going to defend you. So right now I'm messaging you from Denny's while eating horrible pancakes. I truly laughed. Sorry, man. Don't be. Needed to happen anyway. Listen, I don't know what your plan is, but whatever it is, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. You've taken enough garbage from them. Thanks, brother. Yeah, also, heads up. Anna attempted to use your information to access the joint account. What? Yes. The bank contacted and informed her that her access had been suspended. She's planning something. I don't know what, but she had that look. What look? It's the expression she gives when she's going to do something outrageous and manipulative. Do you remember when she showed up at your work? I did. 4 years ago, I declined to offer them money for a vacation. She'd arrived at my office building crying, telling everyone who would listen that I'd abandoned my family. I was so ashamed that I wrote her a check just so she would leave. Peak manipulation. Yeah, I remember. Just watch your back, sis. They're desperate, and desperate people do stupid stuff. He wasn't being deceptive. 2 hours later, I received another tap on my door. This time, it was 2 cops, because apparently when your family is unable to guilt you into submission, they call the cops. The cops did apologize, at least. The taller one said that they'd received a wellness check request. Family members stated I was absent, not responding to anyone, potentially in danger, or experiencing a mental health crisis. I almost laughed, but I managed to hold it together. Officers, I'm clearly fine. I just blocked my family because they've been financially exploiting me for years. They exchanged a look that indicated they'd heard this narrative before. The shorter cop inquired if I was making this decision of my own free will, not under duress, and without any psychological breaks. I confirmed all of the above. They requested that I show my ID and answer some basic questions about my mental state, as is customary for a wellness check. The taller one walked through my flat with me, noting all of my work trophies on the wall and a recent promotion plaque mounted on my desk. Congrats on the promotion, he remarked. Thanks. That's actually what started this whole thing. How so? I gave them a short explanation, invited family to celebrate. Nobody showed. Week later, they demanded money for another party. I cut them off. They're retaliating. Their eyes met. They grasped it really quickly after that. They assured me that I was secure and asked if I wanted to submit a report on the bogus wellness check. I declined, but stated if they continued to harass me, I would seek a restraining order. They nodded and departed. That night, I installed security cameras, one on my front entrance and one in the parking lot. We also added a video doorbell. The cameras cost $350 and send notifications directly to my phone. If they were going to escalate, I needed documentation and footage. Maybe I'll make a documentary about it someday. David offered to crash on my couch. I told him I'd be okay, but the offer soothed me more than I expected. The next morning, I awoke to 17 missed calls and 43 texts from unfamiliar numbers. I deleted them all without reading. Work became my sole refuge. Every day, the first person in and the last to leave. My supervisor, Jan, inquired if I was all right. I informed him I was going through some family issues, but they were managed. He did not push. Then the real stuff began. Someone attempted to log into my bank account. Failed. Password reset attempt. Failed. Someone attempted to use my debit card information in a gas station 3 states away. Declined. Someone attempted to take out a personal loan with my social security information, which was reported as probable fraud. At this point, I wasn't surprised, just sad and perhaps a little pleased by the chutzpah. I drove directly to my bank. Lucia, the manager, raised her eyes when she pulled up my account. Ms. Kelly Luca, someone's been very busy trying to access your finances today. We've blocked everything, but you need to freeze your credit immediately. Can you tell where the attempts came from? She browsed a few websites. The login attempts originated from an IP address in your hometown. The loan application includes a co-applicant. She paused. Elena Luca, related to you? My sister. Lucia's demeanor changed from concern to rage. I'm going to recommend you file a police report for identity theft and attempted fraud. This goes beyond family drama. It's a federal crime. She printed out all of the attempted transactions, highlighted the suspicious ones, and provided me with paperwork. At this time, I had more proof than an episode of Law and Order. I filled out the report, gave them Elena's information, and explained the circumstances. The investigator who took my statement did not appear startled. Family fraud is more common than you'd think, he warned, and harder to prosecute because courts are hesitant to send family members to jail, but will open an investigation. Keep documenting everything, every call, text, and attempt. If this turns into stalking or harassment, we need a written trail. Armed with the police report, I went home and made a life-changing decision. I called my lawyer, Marco, whom I had employed for contract reviews. When I purchased my property, it was time to go nuclear, and I had the code. Marco listened to everything. Years of financial extortion, a no-show at my celebration, a $3,000 demand, blocked numbers, and attempted fraud. All of it. Kelly, what exactly do you want to accomplish here? I want out of every financial entanglement with my family, and I want back every euro they owe me. That's going to be difficult to prove without documentation. I have documentation. Bank statements, Venmo transactions, screenshots of text message requests, all of it going back 6 years. There was a momentary breath. How much are we talking about? I don't know exactly. That's why I need you. I need a full accounting of every euro I've given them. That'll take some time and cost you in billable hours. I don't care what it costs. Make it happen. Marco got to work. Meanwhile, I began my own documentation. I spent the whole weekend going over every bank statement, Venmo transaction, transfer, and text message where they requested money. I structured everything in a big spreadsheet that included dates, quantities, and what they claimed the money was for. This was when everything came into perspective. I was not their daughter or sister. I was a walking ATM that had been trained like a puppy. Once I laid everything out, the pattern became evident. Anna's tears dried up the moment I opened my wallet. Elena's guilt trips about family loyalty as she shared vacation images from locations I'd never seen. Giovanni's disappointing silences lasted precisely until I wired the next payment. It was all there in black and white with gloomy red figures. Over the course of 6 years, hundreds of transactions occurred. Every single one followed the same playbook: crisis, guilt, money, silence, wash, and repeat, until your bank account resembles a crime scene. I counted everything up. Mortgage payments, Giovanni's truck loan, and Elena's wedding all became my financial responsibilities. Anna's emergency medical expenditures, which turned out to be for a cosmetic procedure because Botox is evidently considered a family emergency. Nico's state college tuition was the only thing I didn't regret. I paid off their credit card debt, car repairs, bail money, court bills, vacation deposits, you name it. Total, $320,000. I sat there staring at the number until my eyesight clouded. That was a house. That was retirement savings. That was my entire life's work gone because I was too terrified to say no and too naive to recognize the pattern. I called Marco right after I finished. I have a number. How bad? $320,000. Silence on the other end. Jesus, Kelly. Yeah. All right. Email me everything. I'll verify it and we'll figure out our next move. He double-checked the numbers. He called me one evening that week. Kelly, I've gone through everything. Your total documented losses are $320,000. That's verifiable, provable, and frankly stunning. But here's the thing. Most of these were presented as gifts, not loans. You're going to have a hard time getting a court to order repayment. What if they were coerced? If I can show a pattern of manipulation and guilt trips? That's trickier, but possible, especially with the attempted fraud now on record. Shows intent to continue exploiting you. He stopped. There's another alternative. You're a co-owner of their mortgage, right? Your name appears on the title. Yeah, have been for 8 years. You could force a partition sale. They'd have to buy out your portion or sell the property entirely. The concept took root instantly. Beautiful. How fast can we make that happen? I can file the paperwork tomorrow, but Kelly, this is nuclear. Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. Your relationship with your parents will be over. Our relationship ended long ago. All right then, I'll draft the partition action. But I didn't stop there. If you're going to burn a bridge, you might as well make it spectacular. I remembered the retirement party demand, the $3,000 they'd demanded from me for a celebration to honor a man who couldn't even attend my dinner. I had Marco create a separate email for legal correspondence and sent it to the entire family. Subject: Invoice for outstanding debts. Payment required. Body: Please find a detailed accounting of all financial support provided to the Luca family from 2018 to 2024, totaling $320,000. Payment in full is expected within 90 days. Failure to pay will result in legal action, including but not limited to forced sale of property, wage garnishment, and liens on all vehicles and assets. This is not a negotiation. I attached the 47-page spreadsheet, which highlighted and categorized every transaction and was color-coded by family member. It also included a chart demonstrating the escalation of requests over time. Sent it at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Marco said it would hit them like a bomb. It turns out he was underselling it. Giovanni made the initial call. I didn't respond, but he left a voicemail with only heavy breathing. You have lost your dang mind. Click. Elena texted from a new number. You're trying to destroy us over what? Your hurt feelings? You're such a pathetic a-hole. Anna's voicemail was different, full performance, including crying and screaming. Kelly, baby, please, we can talk about this. You can't really mean this. We're your family. Please call me back. I had heard this performance several times before. It generally ended with me opening my wallet. Not this time. I did not respond to any of them. Let them panic. Let them know I was serious. They were going to use every manipulative trick they knew. I wouldn't participate. The papers for the forced sale went through. My parents had 60 days to either buy me out for fair market value or put the house on the market. Marco believed that my half was worth approximately $150,000. They'd have to come up with it in cash or sell. They didn't have that much cash. It's shocking, I know. They attempted to refinance and buy me out. The bank turned them down since their credit had been wrecked and their debt-to-income ratio was ludicrous. It turns out that living over one's means for decades has consequences. They applied for a personal loan but were denied. They tried to remortgage with a predatory lender. I also banned it since, as a co-owner, I was required to approve any changes. Their only alternative was to sell, and they were furious about it. The house went on the market 3 weeks later. They priced it too high out of anger, hoping to avoid selling. It sat for 2 weeks with no offers, since no one wants to pay too much for a 3-bedroom home in the suburbs. Marco had his realtor notify them that they needed to lower the price or risk a court-ordered auction, which would result in even lower profits. They lowered the price and received an offer within days that was lower than their asking amount, but acceptable. The closing date was established for 45 days out. I received updates from Marco, as well as Nico, who had been keeping me informed while staying at a friend's house. He was attempting to avoid the turmoil. Every Thursday, we'd meet in a quiet cafe, and he'd tell me what was going on. It was like watching a reality show, just sadder and with poorer decision-making. Anna's losing it, he remarked, like genuinely losing it. She called me crying, saying, "You're destroying the family legacy." I reminded her that the family legacy is a mansion they couldn't afford and a lifestyle supported by guilt-tripping their children. He paused. She hung up on me. How's Giovanni? Silent. He just sits in his recliner staring at the wall. It's actually kind of scary. Mom tried to get him to do something, file a countersuit or something, but he won't even respond to her. And Mom, oh, she's on a rampage. Tried to start a GoFundMe, claiming you'd stolen from the family and left them homeless. I reported it, and it got taken down. Now she's calling every relative we have, spinning some story about how you've always been jealous of them, and this is your revenge for being the less successful child. I was laughing when I heard that. I'm literally the only one with a career. Yes, nobody is buying her version. Aunt Sophie advised her to get a job. Uncle Victor claimed he warned Giovanni years ago about bleeding you dry. The extended family is mostly on your side, or at least neutral. Nico went silent for a second. Anna tried to get me to speak with you. I said I was the only one you might listen to. I wanted to convince you to abandon the lawsuit. What did you tell her? I asked. I told her she had 6 years to treat you like a family member, not a bank account. The ship has sailed. That's why I adore Nico. Meanwhile, the cars began to disappear. Giovanni's truck appeared on Facebook Marketplace. Anna took her SUV to a used car store. Elena's expensive automobile, which I helped her lease, was repossessed when she stopped making payments. She shared a sob story on Facebook, alleging financial trouble. 3 people tagged me in the comments and asked if I knew about it. I did not respond. Let them wonder. Elena attempted one more angle. She showed up in my workplace building. Security contacted me from the lobby. Ms. Kelly Luca, there's an Elena Luca here demanding to see you. Says she's your sister. Tell her I'm not available and she's not authorized to be on company property. She's causing a scene, ma'am. Then call the police and have her escorted off the premises. That is what they did. I observed from my office window as 2 cops led her to her car. She screamed the entire way. Jan also witnessed it. Friend of yours? He inquired dryly. Sister. Ah, family. Not anymore. The entire staff received an email regarding tighter security. After that, I became a legend in the building, and not for the better. Then I heard from Nico that the house had sold. After paying off their mortgage, real estate costs, and other expenses, my parents received approximately $75,000 from the sale. They also sold the majority of their furniture, jewelry, and anything of value. Anna's wedding ring ended up at a pawn shop. Giovanni sold his fishing equipment at a yard sale. Everything they had accumulated over the previous 30 years was liquidated. They moved into an inexpensive 2-bedroom apartment in a tough neighborhood. Nico emailed me photos. Bare walls, mismatched Goodwill furniture, and a small kitchen. He didn't say it outright, but the implication was evident. This is what their life is like without you. Elena moved in with her boyfriend, who was clearly unhappy about it based on the screams Nico heard through the walls when he went to pick up his belongings. It turns out that nobody likes a broke, entitled houseguest with a victim complex. They were able to get $75,000 in total by selling their house and liquidating their belongings. They sent it via wire transfer and included a note from Giovanni. This is all we have. I hope you're proud of yourself. I was, but I also knew it wasn't anywhere close to the $320,000 they owed me. Marco wrote another letter. They had several options, including a payment plan, wage garnishment, and more assets to liquidate, but I had made my point. Marco cautioned me that pursuing the whole sum would require years of litigation and might not be worth the stress. Sometimes, he observed, the real win is getting your life back, not having every euro. He was correct. I'd removed my name off their mortgage, reclaimed some money, and created a wall around my future. That was sufficient, or so I thought, because life had one more surprise in store for me. 4 months after everything had gone down, I was settling into my new normal. Work was excellent. I was exceeding my goals, receiving praise from senior management, and truly enjoying my profession without the constant stress of family. Jan nominated me for a Workplace Leadership Award. Life was good. David and I had started traveling again. Weekend road trips, long dinners without interruptions, peace I hadn't known in years. I had resumed dating him seriously, which I had avoided before due to exhaustion. We talked about the future, maybe even moving in together someday. He knew about my family's chaos and handled it with quiet patience, never judgment. I met a woman named Isabella at the gym, another manager in a neighboring company. She became a workout buddy and, eventually, a friend who didn't know or care about my past. A new beginning with a clean slate. I even joined a recreational soccer league, which seemed silly but was a lot of fun. A team of women in their 30s, pretending we weren't too old to slide tackle. We'd grab drinks after games and speak about work and life. Life was good, quiet, but excellent. Then, one Tuesday evening, I was at my usual coffee shop, catching up on emails, when someone slid into the seat across from mine. Nico. He looked different, cleaner, calmer, lighter. A new haircut, less worry in his eyes. He set down a cup of coffee without saying anything. Thanks, I said, keeping one hand on my laptop. What's up? I wanted to talk to you away from everyone else. I closed my laptop and gave him my undivided attention. Everything okay? Yeah, actually. I got into grad school. Full scholarship, engineering program at the University of Washington. I'm moving to Seattle in 2 weeks. Nico, that's incredible. Congratulations. Thanks. I couldn't have done it without your help. The tuition money you gave me for undergrad, that was the only reason I could even apply. I didn't have to work 3 jobs like everyone else. I could focus on grades, research, and actually being a good student. I waved him off. You earned it. You actually went to class and graduated. That was all you. Nonetheless, he said, I wanted you to know that I appreciated it, and I wanted to apologize. For what? For not standing up for you sooner, for letting them treat you like that for years. I witnessed it happen, but didn't say anything because it benefited me as well. That was cowardly. I hadn't expected that. I didn't know what to say, so I simply nodded. He continued, I also wanted to tell you what's been going on. Anna and Giovanni are not doing well. Giovanni works in a warehouse doing night shifts. Anna works half-time in a supermarket. They barely make enough to pay their rent. Elena is still living with her boyfriend, but things are going apart. She started calling and asking for money. What did you tell her? I told her I'm a broke grad student and she should get a job. She called me ungrateful. I blocked her number. He smiled slightly. Learned that from you. Good for you, I said, grinning back. Here's the thing, though. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I'm telling you because I want you to know that they are facing real consequences for the first time in their lives. And maybe, just maybe, that might change things. Probably not. Yeah, probably not. He laughed faintly. But I also wanted to tell you that Giovanni asked about you last week. What did he say? He asked if you were doing okay. I said you seemed happy, and then he just nodded and went quiet. Nico paused. Then he said, I failed that kid. He walked away after that. I wasn't sure what to do with that information. Anyway, Nico said, standing up, I'm leaving for Seattle in 2 weeks, as I said, but I was hoping we might stay in touch and catch dinner when I return. I know I'm part of the family who screwed you over, and I understand if you don't want anything to do with any of us, including myself, but I'm asking nonetheless. Yeah, I replied softly. I'd like that, Nico. Text me when you get settled out there. Maybe I'll come visit, check out Seattle. I'd like that. He paused, then extended his hand. I shook it, and he drew me into a brief hug. It was awkward, but sincere. For what it's worth, he said as he left, I'm proud of you. What you did required courage. I'm trying to learn from that. After he departed, I sat down for a while, nursing my coffee and reflecting on all that had transpired. 6 months ago, I was locked in a loop of shame and responsibility, losing money to people who regarded me as a resource rather than a person. I was so desperate for their acceptance that I almost went bankrupt attempting to buy it. Now I had my life back. I had a career I was proud of, savings in my account, and a future that did not include rescuing anyone from their own choices. I had lost my parents and sister, but truthfully, I'd lost them years before, just hadn't admitted it. But I had also gained something. A brother who respected me, a man who loved me without condition, and peace that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. That was worth more than the money I'd never get back. I walked home that night under the amber streetlights, my thoughts oddly calm. The air was cool, the city humming softly, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel that heavy, invisible weight pressing down on my chest. When I reached my apartment, David was there, sitting on the couch with 2 glasses of wine and takeout boxes waiting on the coffee table. Hey, he said gently, studying my face. How'd it go? I smiled faintly. Good. Actually, really good. He handed me a glass. You saw Nico? I nodded, settling beside him. He's moving to Seattle. Full scholarship. He apologized. Said he's proud of me. David's expression softened. That's big. He's the only one who ever seemed to understand. Yeah, I murmured. It's strange. All those years I thought if I just gave enough, they'd finally love me the way I loved them. Turns out the only person who needed to change was me. He brushed his thumb over my knuckles. You did change, Kelly. You learned to stop setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. That line hit something deep. I leaned my head against his shoulder and exhaled. It's over, isn't it? It's over, he said simply. You don't owe them a single breath. For a long while we sat in silence, the hum of the city below mixing with the faint clinking of dishes from a neighbor's apartment. I thought of the years I'd wasted, every anxious phone call, every overdraft payment labeled family emergency, every hollow promise of gratitude that vanished the moment my card swiped. I thought of the girl I'd been, the one who measured her worth in how much she could give. She was gone now, And what replaced her was someone I finally recognized. The next morning, I woke up early. The sun was spilling through the blinds, golden and unapologetic. I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, and drafted a short message to Marco. "Let's close the file. No further action. Thank you for everything." He replied within minutes. "Understood. Proud of you, Kelly." I smiled. It was the first time anyone had said those words to me and meant them without strings attached. Weeks passed quietly. My days filled with work, weekend hikes with David, and the simple rhythm of peace. The calls stopped. The guilt evaporated. And when tax season arrived, I realized something wild. For the first time in my adult life, my finances belonged entirely to me. Every euro earned, saved, and spent was mine. One Sunday morning, David and I went to the park near the river. He brought coffee. I brought the peace of mind I'd fought for. We sat watching the water move, sunlight glittering on its surface. "You ever think about calling them?" he asked softly. I thought about the voice of my mother, the cold silence of my father, the manipulative laughter of my sister. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but then I remember how quiet my life is now, and I decide to let that silence stay." He nodded. "That's fair." I turned to him, smiling. "You know what's strange? I don't hate them. I don't even wish them ill. I just don't need them anymore." "That's freedom," he said. Maybe it was. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about giving them another chance. It was about giving myself permission to move forward without bitterness. Months later, I got a postcard in the mail. No return address. The handwriting was shaky but familiar. "Seattle's beautiful. Classes are hard, but good. I think about you often. Thank you for showing me what standing up for yourself looks like. Nico." I pinned it to my fridge. That night, as I turned off the lights and walked to bed, I felt something rare, an emotion I hadn't known in years. Not triumph, not revenge, just peace. The kind that comes when you stop chasing love from people who were never capable of giving it. The kind that comes when you finally understand that walking away doesn't mean losing. It means winning quietly, with dignity intact. And that night, lying beside David, my hand in his, I realized I hadn't just rebuilt my life, I had reclaimed myself.